Thank you all for joining us here at I-80 Sports, where today we're talking trade deadline winners and losers, as well as talking about other news and notes around the NHL. Thank you all for joining us here again at I-80 Sports. Make sure you check out our website down below, i80sports.com, for not even just NHL coverage, but for MLS coverage, for NBA coverage, for college football, NFL, and more sports coverage. You got to hit us up at i80sports.com. You also got to hit up our shop and get all of your I-80 Sports needs, guys. And make sure that you follow us on Twitter at I80_sports NHL for the road to 1,000, which is still on. Hop on that train and become one of the first 1,000 people as our followers for I80 Sports. It will be historic. And of course, as usual, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you are not subscribed already. But it's time to get into some NHL content. It's time to talk some trade deadline. I'm Brian. He's Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
Doing well. We had a interesting trade deadline. I guess a good trade deadline if you're into seeing a lot of moves being made. Is it the most memorable one in history? Maybe not, but definitely a good one, to say the least.
Definitely. It was definitely a more reserved trade deadline, which a lot of people, were probably saying like, wow, it was actually kind of a quiet deadline. And the reason being is because you've got the flat cap that's coming over the next 2 years in the NHL, but then you also have teams that are methodically planning for the expansion draft, which is something that not a lot of people think of. There are GMs that are really putting through their checks and balances before they make players available and bring back other players in case they need to protect more important players. But let's dive into some quick NHL news. I mean, super quick, just right off the top. We had some re-signings in the NHL. We also had one signing in the NHL, and we also had some interesting waiver claims. So I'm going to go through all four, and then we'll pick out one that we felt was, pretty significant. First things first, the New Jersey Devils released forward Nikita Gusev this past week, who then was signed by the Florida Panthers for the remainder of the season on a $1 million contract. Next, the Dallas Stars claimed Sami Vatanen off waivers from the New Jersey Devils, and the Ottawa Senators claimed Victor Mete off of waivers from the Montreal Canadiens. Next, the Los Angeles Kings re-signed Alex Iafallo to a 4-year, $16 million contract extension. So it's a 4x4 deal, meaning that he is going to be making $4 million per year. And lastly, the Philadelphia Flyers have re-signed Scott Laughton to a 5-year, $15 million contract extension. So that's a 5x3, meaning that he is going to be making $3 million per year. So off the top here of these couple moves that I mentioned here, what do you think is the most significant here, Tom?
It's one. The Sami Vatanen one is kind of surprising for me, as I remember a few years back, Sami Vatanen was a huge trade target at the deadline. I even remember there was a rumored deal that Boomer Esiason dropped on Twitter that the Rangers had traded Dan Girardi for him way back in 2014. So it's just another one, as we had mentioned some players a few weeks back. It's just another one that's, wow, the mighty have fallen. Here we are, Sami Vatanen. He was a few years ago considered a great upcoming defenseman, a great guy to bring into your, to your middle or low pairing, and now, he's on waivers. It's crazy how things happen sometimes. That's one that kind of piqued my interest just a little bit. The Gusev one a little bit too, because I remember a lot of Devils fans last year were very, very high on Gusev. We're hoping that him and Jack Hughes could provide a good 1-2 punch to future first line. And it's just, sometimes it happens with these guys. As a Ranger fan, there was a guy, Nikolai Zherdev, who we had many years ago, who, had all the tools, was looking like somebody who could have been like the next big Russian forward up there with Ovechkin, and it just didn't work out. So those two kind of piqued my interest just a little bit.
Yeah, I do agree. So I'll hop on the Nikita Gusev bit only because you had just mentioned it. With Nikita Gusev, it was unfortunate that he never quite worked out in New Jersey, though. It just never seemed like he fit the system. And he always had a little bit of difficulty grasping the defensive side of the game. But that being said, I am excited for him being in Florida because I actually do think that is a potential boost to Florida. Nikita Gusev can hang out in the top 9, not be relied on so heavily, and can just do his thing. The also good thing about him is he's got amazing hands, and he's going to be great towards the end of the year for shootouts as well. The other one that piqued my interest was the LA Kings re-signing Alex Iafallo. There was talks that he was going to be on the block at the trade deadline if they couldn't get this deal done, and I'm so happy that the LA Kings did, because Alex Iafallo is a fantastic forward, and I'm so glad that he is finally getting paid. He has worked his butt off. He's amazing, and he should be a fixture on this LA Kings team for the next few years to come, and that is an exciting thing if you're an LA Kings fan, because as you've seen from Iafallo, he's a fantastic player. So just be even more excited for 4 more years of him. So now, without further ado, we are going to move into our trade deadline winners and losers. What we're going to do first is we're just going to go through every trade that was made this past week. Now, meaning like just from this past week. So beginning from Wednesday on the first deal that happened as the lead up to the trade deadline. So we won't be mentioning deals like the Eric Staal trade and things like that, because quite frankly, we already talked about them. So there's no need to rehash them here. They will also be rehashed in our trade deadline winners and losers as well. So without further ado, Tom, the way we're going to work this is we're going to announce the deal, and we're either going to say we loved it, we liked it, it was meh, or we hated it. And we'll go into, the explanation to that once we get into our winners and losers. So without further ado, the first deal, the New York Islanders acquire Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac from the New Jersey Devils for a 2021 first-round pick, a conditional 2022 second-round pick, AHLers AJ Greer and Mason Jobst. So the Devils will retain 50% of the salaries of both Palmieri and Zajac to make the deals work. Tom, love, like, meh, or hate?
Yeah, I'm on the borderline between meh and hate on this one. As a Devil, if I were a Devil fan like you are, I'd be a little upset with that. I think you should have got a lot more out of it. I'm wondering if Lou Lamoriello has somebody that does him favors that organization still when I see things like this happen. I really think that, because I feel like the Devils got hosed on this. At the same time, Palmieri and Zajac, they're getting to a point now where the Devils are trying to rebuild. They are trying to go with a youth movement. And maybe they just thought, the best thing we can do for these guys is send them somewhere where they have a chance to win. But I don't know. I'm on the borderline between meh and hate.
Fair. I actually like it, and I'll explain more a little bit later. Going to the next deal. Chicago Blackhawks acquired Brett Connolly, Riley Stillman, Henrik Borgstrom, and a 2021 7th-round pick from the Florida Panthers for Lucas Carlson and Lucas Wallmark. So, love, like, meh, or hate?
I like it. I guess it sort of benefits both teams. Chicago, who looked like a playoff shoo-in a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe you're just try. I really don't know what they're doing with this, but I guess it's just sort of a swap. It's sort of just kind of an even swap here, I guess. Yeah, I like it. I guess. I like it. I like it.
I like it.
I can say about it.
Yeah, I like it for what Florida ended up doing with the saved money from Brett Connolly, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Next, the Toronto Maple Leafs acquired longtime Columbus Blue Jacket Riley Nash from the Columbus Blue Jackets, as I mentioned, for a 2022 conditional 7th-round pick, and the pick becomes a 6th-round pick if Nash appears in 25% of Toronto's 2020 to 2021 playoff games, so this year's playoffs. Love, like, meh, or hate?
I'm like, it's predictable. We all knew Toronto is going for it. They're going to do everything possible to bolster up their depth for a potential playoff battle with the Edmonton Oilers. As we know, the Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl, and I think the Leafs are trying. If they have to see the Oilers, they're going to try and win that series by having a better 3rd and 4th line if that happens. So I think that's what in Kyle Dubas's mind. So I do like it. He wants to beat other teams in the Canadian division by having a better 3rd and 4th line.
Yeah, I like the deal. I think it adds veteran leadership to the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Next, the Colorado Avalanche acquired Patrick Nemeth from the Detroit Red Wings for a 2022 4th-round draft pick. I'm going to say I actually like this pick. It's good depth for Colorado. Tom, what do you think?
I'm thinking the same thing. I mean, I think Colorado's defense is deep as it is already. But you get into the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. Somebody goes down in game one. Now you have somebody you can swap with. So not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Next, we have our first 3-team deal here. So strap in for this craziness. So first off, the Tampa Bay Lightning acquired David Savard and Brian Lashoff. Columbus Blue Jackets obviously are the team that traded away David Savard in this deal. Columbus gets back Tampa Bay's 2021 first-round pick, Tampa's 2022 third-round pick, and Columbus also retains 50% of Savard's salary. The Detroit Red Wings, for Detroit retaining 50% of Savard's salary, Detroit picks up Tampa's 2021 fourth-round pick in this deal. And to me, I really like this deal, not necessarily for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think it's an okay deal. I really like this for the Columbus Blue Jackets for what they get out of this deal. You get a first-round pick for David Savard, which is fantastic. I think that's absurd value. So I love the deal for Columbus. Tom?
Well, as we had learned last year with Tampa Bay, depth, having good depth is what gets you to the top, what gets you that Stanley Cup. They want to win it again. They know they're a contender. We know Columbus is not a contender. We know Detroit has a ton of cap space and can eat some cap. We know they're not a contender either. So I like this one. I think everybody wins in this one, to tell you the truth. Tampa's going for it again, and Tampa learned, like we learned last year with them, you got to have good depth to win it all.
The other good thing also is Tampa Bay's getting David Savard for free, so you can't complain there. They don't have to pay a single bit of his salary. Next, the Buffalo Sabres acquire a 2021 third-round pick from the Florida Panthers for Brandon Montour. Love this deal for the Florida Panthers because you effectively replace Aaron Ekblad going for this year. Tom?
Agreed. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm agreed on that one. They're replacing Ekblad. They have a shot at the playoffs, and it works. I think it works out well for them. Third-round pick though. For Buffalo's sake, I feel like maybe they should have tried to talk them up to a second. I don't know. But then again, you never know. You find some gems in that third round. But then again, this is Buffalo we're talking about. So
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoiler alert. This is going to be something that we're going to be talking about with Buffalo later.
This is between light and meh for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is between light and meh.
I think that's very true. Next, the Colorado Avalanche acquire Devin Dubnyk from the San Jose Sharks for Greg Pattern and a 2021 fifth-round pick. Tom, thoughts?
A little bit of a head scratcher on this one. I don't know what Colorado would need Dubnyk for. That's a little head scratcher on my end, unless they're worried about goalies being injured. I don't know.
Honestly, I think that's exactly it. I like this deal for Colorado only because they're planning for the pitfall that they landed themselves in last year. And now you've got a proven goalie in Devin Dubnyk. Sure, he's older. He's got a lot of road wear. But I think I like him as an option coming off, as an emergency basis in this case. Colorado is trying to go for it this year, and they don't want anything spoiling it this year. Next, the New Jersey Devils acquired Jonas Siegenthaler from the Washington Capitals for a 2021 conditional third-round pick, which was originally owned by Arizona, which is conditional between the Coyotes and the Devils. If the pick is not moved to New Jersey, it becomes New Jersey's 2021 third-round pick rather than Arizona's. So in this case, if Taylor Hall decides to re-sign with Arizona as part of their condition, then New Jersey ends up getting their second-round pick, and then they would send the Devils' third-round pick to Washington instead. So I really like this deal. I think Siegenthaler, the fact that he didn't play in Washington this year because they insisted on playing Zdeno Chara so much, I think the Devils get a steal on this one. They get a good shutdown defenseman for their core going forward. Tom?
I think the same thing. It works out in both teams' favors. Yeah, nothing wrong with it. I like it.
Yeah. Next, the Detroit Red Wings acquire Hayden Verbeek and a 2021 fifth-round pick from Montreal in exchange for John Merrill. So, Tom, are already shaking your head. So I'm going to guess.
I don't understand. And I sound like a broken record here. But I just don't understand what Montreal is doing. They're wheeling and dealing like they're a contender, but they're not a contender. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why are they wheeling and dealing? They're not even close to a Stanley Cup. They're not one step away. They're 17 steps away from being there. What Montreal is doing doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So this one, I just don't like it because it just doesn't make sense for me. It doesn't make sense for me at all.
I think it's fair. I think they want to test the waters of playoffs, and I think they wanted a defenseman who is a stay-at-home defenseman like John Merrill. He's not a flashy player. He was always a scapegoat for the Devils, even though he was defensively one of the better guys that the Devils had over the past couple of years defensively. But, yeah, I tend to agree. This is not a move that Montreal necessarily needed to make. Next, we got another 3-team deal. Yay, 3-team deals. And what do you know? It involves the Columbus Blue Jackets again. In this deal, the Toronto Maple Leafs have acquired Nick Foligno, longtime captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets, Nick Foligno, as well as Stefan Nason. The Columbus Blue Jackets receive a 2021 first-round pick and a 2022 fourth-round pick. And Columbus will also retain 50% of Foligno's salary. And because Toronto couldn't take on 50% of Nick Foligno's salary, they had the Sharks jump in on this trade. San Jose retains 25% of Foligno's salary. In exchange, they will also receive a 2021 fourth-round pick from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, I love this deal for Columbus. I love this deal for Toronto. I think this is a win-win across the board for all parties involved. Tom, do you agree?
Agree as well. Like I said before, we all know Toronto's going for it. We all know Toronto's trying to shore up their depth. We all know Toronto, they don't want to, I hate to say it. Like I mentioned Toronto and Edmonton all the time, but they don't want to become Edmonton. They don't want to become the team where, okay, if you shut down McDavid and Draisaitl or one of them gets hurt, then you're screwed, I think Dubas is, again, he's trying to shore up the depth. He's going all out for it. It's been 54. It's going to be 54 years up there in Toronto soon. So Dubas is going all out for it no matter what.
Definitely. Next, the Boston Bruins acquire Mike Riley from the Ottawa Senators for a 2022 third-round pick. This is a depth, move. Meh. Not much to see here, right, Tom?
Yeah, not much to see here. It's just like driving by a store, pretty much. I hate to say it, but
pretty much.
Yeah.
Next, the Toronto Maple Leafs acquire goalie David Riddick from the Calgary Flames. In exchange for a 2022 third-round pick, Calgary also retains 50% of Riddick's salary here. I don't know if Toronto needed to make this move. I don't know. I don't know how to feel on this one, Tom.
I don't know either. This just sort of reminds me of what Colorado did above with Dubnyk. I just don't know what they need him for. You got Jack Campbell tearing it up right now. I know Freddie Anderson's still around too. So what exactly are you doing there?
Yeah.
It's probably just in case somebody gets hurt. They have somebody to rely on.
Yeah, like if they anticipate Freddie Anderson's going to be out longer, I see why you make the move.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not much to see here. Moving on. Next, another move that, not much to see here. Moving on. New York Islanders acquire Braden Coburn from the Ottawa Senators for a 2022 seventh-round pick. This is another one of those drive-by moves that I just think Coburn's just depth, and he's just depth for your taxi squad, to be honest.
Yeah, but he's been there before, too. He's one of those guys where you don't have to worry. Whereas if you have an injury, you have to insert him in the line. Coburn has been in the league. He's a veteran. He knows, he knows what to do in the playoffs. So, yeah, again, the Islanders are they're showing up their depth. They're trying to be that team built for the playoffs. They're trying to win by a team, like a team first concept. So, I don't mind it. It's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, but moving on still. Next, this one was not necessarily a moving on type one. Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Jeff Carter from the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for a 2022 conditional third-round pick, a and a 2023 conditional 4th-round pick. The 2022 3rd-round pick becomes a 2nd-round pick if the Penguins reach the 2021 Stanley Cup Final and Carter plays in at least 50% of games. So, yeah, I really like this deal for Pittsburgh. I think this is a fantastic depth move for Pittsburgh, especially for their top 9, maybe even top 6, because Jeff Carter he has that next level and can still turn it on. I also think that this is Jeff Carter's last year in the NHL. I feel like he's going to hang him up after this year. So he wants that last chance to maybe see if he can get one more title. Tom, what do you think?
Love this one. Love this deal for a variety of reasons that I'm going to go into later on. This one actually really surprised me because you really weren't hearing much about him beforehand. So this surprised me a little bit when I found out about it, but I really like this deal. I will go more into this later on in the show.
Yeah, and I'll also, end on this one with that. This is a deal that nobody thought would happen because Jeff Carter told LA Kings management flat out, if you trade me, I will retire. I do not want to go anywhere. So there must have been some backstage talk like, look, I will only go here, here, and here, or just like here if you trade me. It must have been some type of parlay move. Next was a big trade, a big bombshell. Not bombshell, but like a big enough trade. Boston Bruins acquiring Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar. And Buffalo receives in exchange for that Anders Bjork and a 2022 2nd-round pick. Buffalo retains 50% of Hall's salary in the deal. Man, I'm scratching my head at Buffalo for this one. You could have gotten so much more for this. Agreed, Tom?
Agreed as well. But you know what I also think may have happened? I thought for sure Hall was going to go to Colorado. I really, really thought. And I just got a funny feeling Joe Sakic hung up the phone on them and said, hey, listen, man, the ball's in my court. I'm sorry, I'm not giving you Newhook. I'm not giving you Byram. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it for this guy. And, there's Boston, probably the only team left this few days. I know Edmonton was kicking the tires too, but I just don't know how Edmonton would have made it happen. And Hall may have very well said that he doesn't want to go back to Edmonton. That could have happened too. I don't know. But yeah, this one surprised me a little bit. And Buffalo got hosed. But I do remember I was watching the NHL Network last week, and they had Billy Jaffe on, and he was talking about how Boston is sort of experimenting right now, where they actually dropped Pasternak off line 1, and they inserted Craig Smith into his spot. They had Krejci and Pasternak playing on line 2. Now you stick Hall on line 2. Those are 2 legit lines Boston has to throw at you now. So it's a great grab for the Bruins. The Bruins are another team where, their core is not exactly young anymore. This may be one of the last times, or maybe the last time they have a shot at it. So you know what? Good on them for doing it. Buffalo got hosed yet again. But at the same time, it did surprise me because I thought for sure with what Colorado had a prospect depth and what Colorado had as a young and up-and-coming team, he would have wound up out there. But I got a funny feeling Joe Sakic drives a hard bargain. He probably drove a hard bargain again yesterday. So good on everybody for this one. Hopefully Taylor Hall's not a headache up in Boston.
Yeah, hopefully not. And just, I'll wrap up this one by saying this. Devils fans, you should be so much happier about the Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac deal after seeing how Buffalo bungled the entire Taylor Hall trade there, especially because you saw Taylor Hall get traded for a 1st-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and a slew of prospects. So to see this just from last year to this year, Devils fans, don't lose faith in Tom Fitzgerald just yet. Moving right along, though, Chicago Blackhawks acquiring Adam Gaudette from the Vancouver Canucks for Matthew Highmore. On paper, this looks like something that you kind of sneeze at and just kind of like stick your nose up at. But I really like Adam Gaudette, actually. I think this is a really good pickup for the Chicago Blackhawks. So I love this for the Blackhawks. Tom?
To me, it's just sort of a depth for depth there, To me, it's kind of like, okay, nothing to see here. I mean, I know Adam Gaudette's a decent player, but nothing big. I'm scratching my head at what Chicago is doing. So I don't know. Or do they want to make the playoffs? Do they want to be out of the playoffs? I just don't know what they're doing over in Chicago. And, I've been scratching my head at Chicago since we did that episode way back with the problems in Chicago. They should still be a contender right now. Artemi Panarin and Teuvo Teravainen should be tearing it up in Chicago with Patrick Kane right now. And, well, the head scratching that I do with the Blackhawks is why they're not there anymore. So, but hey, good on them for not having Panarin anymore because I have no problem having him where he is now. Sorry for rambling, but it's
no,
it's a thought that's popped in my head over the past few weeks. Just, they should still be contenders out there with what they had.
Absolutely. Next, this is one that is just kind of like a move along type of deal, like nothing really to see here. San Jose Sharks acquiring goalie prospect Magnus Krona from the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for Frederick Claesson. Depth move on both sides, moving right along. There's really not much to see here, just kind of meh.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, exactly. Both of us do. Frederick Claesson spent time on both the Rangers and the Devils and is starting to slowly become a trailblazer in the NHL at the moment at a very young age. Next, the Edmonton Oilers acquired Dimitri Kulikov from the New Jersey Devils for a conditional 2022 fourth-round pick. The pick does become a third-round pick if the Oilers win a playoff round. I think that's highly likely, and I think that this ultimately will be a third-round pick for the Devils. So I know I have talked to multiple Devils fans that do not like this at all, but I actually really, really like this pick because you need to make room for Siegenthaler or Will Butcher, probably more preferably Siegenthaler. So I really like this move, and I like this move for the Oilers as well. Tom?
I like it too. It gives the Oilers some depth on D, which they'll probably need in the playoffs. It's the one thing about the Oilers, they play so great in the regular season, but the few times they've been in the playoffs now, it's the playoffs. It's defensive hockey. It's having the good depth, and they've had those problems there. McDavid and Draisaitl can score 100 goals, but if you can't stop them, what are you going to do? So, good move on you. Good on the Oilers.
Yeah, good on the Oilers. Good on the Devils. Moving right along. Next, we have the next 3-team deal, which I believe this is actually the last of our 3-team deals. Yes, it is. This is the last of our 3-team deals, and it's actually finally getting Vegas in the mix on this one because Vegas Golden Knights pick up Matthias Janmark for a 2022 fifth-round pick in exchange for a 2021 second-round pick and a 2022 third-round pick. Because they needed to move around a little bit of money. San Jose gets involved on this one, picks up some salary, so they get a 2022 fifth-round pick for this one as well. I like this move for Vegas. I think Janmark is a very underrated player, and I think it's going to be a good, solid top-9 player for the Vegas Golden Knights coming into the playoffs, so I think this is a good move for them. Plus, it's great for Chicago. You pick up more draft capital. Tom?
Agreed wholeheartedly, Yeah, I pretty much have the same thoughts about this as you do. Nothing new to add, I guess.
Sounds good. Next, moving right along, the Colorado Avalanche acquire Carl Soderbergh, which this should be familiar to some Colorado fans because Carl Soderbergh used to be a Colorado Avalanche. So this should be a nice little welcome home party for him. To the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Josh Dickinson and Ryder Ralston. Yeah, I like the steal for the Avalanche. I think it's a good, solid bottom 6 move, and I think it just gives them more depth. Tom?
Again, solid bottom 6 move. Colorado's going for it as well, and Joe Sakic is no stranger. He knows what he's doing up there. So yeah, I'm agreeing with that one as well. I think that's a nice solid move for the Avalanche with their depth right there. So it'll help them out.
Yep. Next move, we're getting into why I really, really liked why Florida moved around some money, why they moved around Brett Connolly, because now we see, the fruits of their labor. So the Florida Panthers acquired Sam Bennett from the Calgary Flames in exchange for a 2022 second-round pick and prospect Emil Heineman. Love this deal for the Florida Panthers. I think this is a great change of scenery for Sam Bennett. Just an awesome move for a team that desperately needs depth going into this playoff, especially if they want to be competitive. Tom?
Agree wholeheartedly. His name has been thrown around all year. It helps Florida out too. They're looking more and more like they're going to be a playoff team now. So you can stick him in the middle on your second or third line, and hopefully it works out down there. I know he wasn't real happy up there in Calgary, so he's going down to Florida now. He's not under Daryl Sutter anymore. So there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's better for both parties here. Next, the Philadelphia Flyers acquire a 2022 7th-round pick, not second, 7th-round pick from the Montreal Canadiens in exchange for Eric Gustafsson. And Philadelphia retains 50% of Gustafsson's cap hit. I'm scratching my head at both teams on this one. Like, number one, I understand from the Canadian standpoint, you need defensive depth going into the playoffs if you want to be treated as like a legitimate, threat. The Flyers could have gotten more than a 2022 seventh round pick for Gustafsson, especially with like how Gustafsson has started this season. I feel like the Flyers really undersold him here. Tom?
Yeah, I agree too. This is a guy who it's a guy who I'm looking, hold on. About 2 years ago had a 60-point season out in Chicago. And maybe he finds they get in Montreal. Do I understand why Montreal is doing what they're doing? Am I repeating myself? Yes, I don't understand why Montreal is gearing up for a cup run when they're not a contender, but it is what it is. I don't understand this one either, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's moving on, but at the same time, you know what? This is not a move for this year for the Flyers, but next year maybe Cam York is ready, but I don't like this move. Anyway, Anaheim Ducks acquire a 2022 fifth-round pick from the Toronto Maple Leafs in exchange for Ben Hutton. Good depth move for Toronto. I think there's not much more to say other than that. I think moving right along here. The Ottawa Senators acquire a 2023 seventh-round pick and Brandon Fortunato from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Eric Gudbranson. Good depth move for Nashville. Nashville, since we talked about Nashville like potentially needing to blow it up, they're all of a sudden on a tear. Maybe we need to start, talking negatively about some teams for them to get their act together, because Nashville has really gotten their act together since us, basically slamming them. That being said, don't know if Gudbranson's the right player to bring in here, but you know what? I give him credit for trying in this regard. Next, my laptop died, so I actually got to pull it up on my docs here. Bear with me real quick, because we're in the home stretch here. We are in the home stretch. Next on our list of moves. There we go. Toronto Maple Leafs acquire Antti Suomola from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Alex Barabanov. Depth move, I guess, Tom?
I guess so, yeah. Like I said, D is for depth and D is for Dubas, so
there you go.
D is also for drought, which is what they have up there. So,
yep. Next, the Anaheim Ducks acquire Hayden Flurry from the Carolina Hurricanes for Yanni Hakanpää and a 2022 sixth-round pick. Love this move for Anaheim. They're buying low on Hayden Flurry, who not too long ago was seen as a very high prospect for the Carolina Hurricane. Tom, do you agree?
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. Hayden Flurry was considered one of the next big things for the Canes, and it just 35 games this year, 1 point, and it's not very good. So, you never know. Sometimes a change of scenery. Look at Ryan Strome right now in New York. Sometimes a change of scenery is just what a guy needs.
Very true. Next, Vancouver Canucks acquire Madison Bowie and a 2021 fifth-round pick from the Chicago Blackhawks for a 2021 fourth-round pick. I like this move for Vancouver. I've always been a little bit higher on Madison Bowie. I hope he kind of turns it around here. In general, he's a good right-handed defenseman here. Tom?
Yeah, I guess. Works out for Vancouver. I mean, Vancouver is going to actually start playing again this week, so they may still. Is he going to play with them right away? Is another question. Is he going to Vancouver to sit around for 2 weeks and then maybe play 3 games at the end of the season? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Now, this is a move that was kind of necessitated by the fact that Vancouver also made another move at the deadline along with acquiring Madison Bowie as they trade Jordy Ben to the Winnipeg Jets in exchange for a 2021 sixth-round pick. So it does kind of justify the existence of Madison Bowie being involved in the deal there, and Winnipeg also acquiring Jordy Ben there. Depth move for Winnipeg. I don't think there's really much to discuss there, right, Tom?
Yeah, agreed too. Somebody, again, they can bring him for the playoffs if there's injury. You throw him out there. He's got experience. He's a veteran. He's been in the league a little while now. So, yeah, somebody, for the playoffs, you have an injury, you need to shake things up. It's an option.
Yep. Now we finally have come to the final two deals of the trade deadline that came in right after the deadline ended. And the first one for Washington is, a good depth piece. The next is a bombshell. So here's the first one. The Washington Capitals acquire Michael Raffl from the Philadelphia Flyers in exchange for a 2021 fifth-round pick, with Philadelphia retaining 25% of Raffl's contract. Again, I don't like this deal for the Flyers. I thought Michael Raffl was a good player for the most part for the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't know why you make this deal, to be honest. For Washington, you get a good bottom six guy, and you effectively replace Richard Panik, which, don't worry, we're going to go into that one. Tom, you agree?
Yeah, agree. Another depth piece. Michael Raffl also been around a while. It's, somebody to, like I've been saying all time, all show. You have somebody there just in case you have injuries. You have somebody to slot in. So yeah, I like the deal for Raffl.
Yeah. All right, so we've come to our final trade, and this one's a doozy. A doozy of a deal. We thought it was going to be a quiet end to the trade deadline, but no, the trade deadline went out with a bang because at the last minute, the Washington Capitals acquire Anthony Mantha from the Detroit Red Wings in exchange for Richard Panik, Jacob Vrana, a 2021 first-round pick, and a 2022 second-round pick. Whew. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack with this deal. First of all, I love this deal for the Detroit Red Wings. This is a king's ransom for Anthony Mantha. Not only do you pick up Jacob Vrana and Richard Panik, which that alone maybe could have gotten you Anthony Mantha, you also get the premium picks in the 2021 first-round pick and the 2022 second-round pick. Steve Yzerman worked his magic beautifully here. He did a great job with this deal. And for Washington, yes, you overpaid a little bit for Anthony Mantha. But think about the potential of Anthony Mantha playing with Alexander Ovechkin on a power play. Oh, my goodness. Like, Anthony Mantha, for the first time, is going to be playing some good, legitimate playoff hockey. And this could be Washington's chance over the next 2 years to win the Stanley Cup. That's what they're going for here. Tom, what do you think?
Oh, wow. I actually don't like this. For Washington's sake, I don't like this trade. I'm going to go into it a little more later on, but I don't like this for Washington.
Fair enough. And actually, we don't have to wait that much longer to talk about like what we do and don't like, because it's time finally to talk about our winners and losers, because those are all the trades. We've reacted to all of them. So, winners, losers. There are winners, there are losers. We're going to talk about winners first. We're going to talk about the trade deadline winners as well as what we felt our favorite trade of the deadline was. So, without further ado, Tom, I'll let you start off right off the top. Who are the trade deadline winners? What was your favorite trade?
Well, like I had said before, we have a 54-year drought up in Toronto. Coincidentally, there was a 54-year drought in some other city a long, long time ago, and we'll talk about that. So, I like what Dubas did. He really shored up his depth. I think he watched last year with Tampa, and he's watched with a lot of other teams who won, and just how these guys how their depth contributes in the winning games. I liked a lot of what Kyle Dubas did up in Toronto. But maybe my favorite trade was over in Pittsburgh. Now, there's a saying there: the more things change, they say the same. Now, the trade they made for Carter was that seemed more like a Jimmy Rutherford trade. That didn't seem like a Hextall and Brian Burke trade. When we were talking about Ryan Hextall and Brian Burke, we were talking about them maybe coming in and blowing the team up in Pittsburgh, maybe shipping some guys off. But you know what they said? They said, we'll have to see where we are at the deadline, and if we're in the playoffs, we're going to do something. Well, if they're in the playoffs, they're contenders. And you know what? One thing I'll say about the Penguins is this: after they won the back-to-backs in 16 and 17. But then they got rid of Kessel later on. The one thing that they were lacking after they got rid of Kessel was another veteran guy on that third line. Now, I don't know where they're going to play Carter. Carter can play center. Jeff Carter can play center. He can play wing. Are they going to play him maybe with Crosby or Malkin? It's possible. Are they going to play him as a third-line center, and they're going to have what they had in 2016, where they had Crosby, Malkin, and Kessel all on different lines in order to spread the talent out, so each team now has to deal with 3 different lines of talent on it. I really like what they did here. Jeff Carter may not be the Jeff Carter he was 10 or so years ago, or even 5 or so years ago. But I do really think that this puts Pittsburgh back in the conversation as a Stanley Cup favorite. Not the Stanley Cup favorite. I don't think there is a the Stanley Cup favorite right now. But a Cup favorite, just knowing what Pittsburgh has done, they've been there, they have the horses, and now they just added another horse who did it twice in LA and who went there with Philly back in 2010. Now you have a guy who's been in those battles before, who's won the Cup, and is probably licking his chops to get back in the playoffs because LA hasn't been so great over the past couple of years. So I really, 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 really like what Pittsburgh did with this Carter deal. And for me, to compliment the Pittsburgh Penguins on anything takes a lot.
This is a very fair point. For me, for my winners, I really like what Florida did at the deadline. I think Nikita Gusev could turn things around there and, be a good top 9 wing for them. I really like the Brandon Montour pickup as a effective replacement for Aaron Ekblad, who's going to be out for the remainder of this year with a leg fracture. And also adding Sam Bennett helps immensely up the middle. I think this is a Florida team that is now primed for playoff contention and maybe even a deeper run. We'll just have to see. I really liked what Columbus did as sellers. They get 2 more first-round picks this year, and all it cost them was David Savard and Nick Foligno. You got 2 first-round picks for those 2 players alone. That's fantastic work. And you get a lot more draft capital as well. Sure, it's not premium draft capital for this year's draft, but you know what? There's still things that you can do with that. There's a lot that you can kind of run with. It gives them more flexibility with their situation now. I also like the Islanders picking up Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, though. It now feels like a bit of an overpay seeing what Taylor Hall just went for. Speaking of Taylor Hall, really nice pickup by the Bruins. I think he slots in nicely on the second line with David Krejci. Lastly, the real winner of this trade deadline, I feel like, is Toronto. I mean, what more is there to say? They added a key veteran in Nick Foligno that is true leadership, and you also pick up a background role veteran in Riley Nash as well. I'll be watching Toronto very closely going forward. As for my favorite trade of this deadline, it's probably the last deal that was made, and that was the Anthony Mantha deal. We were kind of setting ourselves up for okay, it's going to be a boring trade deadline, nothing crazy, and then bam, huge trade right at the end. Because Anthony Mantha, for any of those who have gotten to watch Detroit hockey, which, shout out to Bex, for Detroit hockey on this one, but Washington's getting a fantastic player in Anthony Mantha. That being said, Detroit gets a king's ransom. Steve Yzerman worked his magic on this deal and got some really primo pieces. What's more interesting about this deal also, and what people are saying, they gave up Jacob Vrana for this, well, yeah, they did, because Jacob Vrana's worth at the moment is shot just purely because this is his RFA year. You're going to be giving him potentially a big contract after this year. So he doesn't really have the value at the moment. He's, in a way, a rental, if you think about it. So Detroit is going to have to pay Jacob Vrana after this year. But for Washington, I said it before, I'll say it again. Just think about Alexander Ovechkin and Anthony Mantha on that top power play unit. I think it's all said and done from there. But we're done talking about winners and favorite trades. There are winners, there are losers, as we know. So, Tom, we're going to be talking about losers here, head-scratching trades. And, Tom, why is it Buffalo?
Well, it's Buffalo, and you're going to hate me on this. I really don't like what the Devils did with that Palmieri and Zajac trade either. So as a Ranger fan, the 2 teams below me I'm looking at, and I'm just waving and saying, yeah, I don't know what the hell you guys are doing down there. But, those 2, the Buffalo's a freaking head scratcher, man. I just don't understand what the mentality or the vision or the idea or anything is up there. I guess the Devils with Fitzgerald, gets them another first-round draft pick, which I guess is nice. But at the same time, it's just 2 head scratchers there. But the biggest head scratcher is the one that you liked, bringing Mantha into DC. And I'm wondering if that was a panic move on Washington's part, where you saw the Devils bring, not the Devils, I'm sorry, the Islanders bring Zajac and Palmieri. So the Bruins bring Hall in. So the Penguins bring Jeff Carter in. And I'm wondering if DC was just going, oh, crap. We got to do something because we got to keep up with these guys. And I'm wondering if they just frantically called around to every bottom feeder in the league and said, what can you give me for this guy? What can you give me for that guy? Just give me something. Do you see what's going on over here in my division? Do you see what these other three guys did? I got to do something. So that's a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, don't get me wrong. Anthony Mantha's a good player, but I don't think Anthony Mantha is at a level of a Jeff Carter or a Taylor Hall or even a Palmieri and a Zajac, maybe closer to those two guys. But that's just a little bit of a head scratcher. And I think DC just got cold, just got a little trigger happy there and said, well, they pulled the trigger, so I'm going to go pull the trigger too. They jumped off the bridge, so I'm going to jump off the bridge too.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm going to hop on the Buffalo bandwagon on this one of, just hating and everything like that. But sorry for my peeps over at Frozen 4 podcast, but the biggest loser to me has to be Buffalo. They dealt Eric Stahl, Taylor Hall, and Brandon Montour. And all you get back from those deals is Bjork, a second-round pick, 2 third-round picks, and a 5th-round pick. That's it. That's all you get from those 3 premium pieces. Is that you don't even get a first-round pick or multiple first-round picks? You have to do better than that. That's embarrassing.
Can I add one thing here?
Sure.
I'm surprised they didn't go asking for first-round picks for next year in a draft that's supposed to be a lot better than this year. That's I meant to say that before and it skipped my mind. I'm sorry to interrupt, John.
Oh, of course. And it's true. I can understand teams being hesitant to give up on a first-round pick next year because there's so much uncertainty. You have seen teams like the San Jose Sharks be so sure about getting rid of a first-round pick only to be absolutely terrible the year after and giving up a premium first-round selection in the top 5. So I can understand the hesitance from some teams making sure that they're really going through their checks and balances on deals. But Buffalo could have done way better than this. And hell, if you're a Devils fan and you look at that Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac deal now, and you got a first-round pick for that, and they got a first-round pick last year for trading Hall, it only makes Buffalo look dumber. Dumber. I also don't like what Philadelphia did. I feel like Philadelphia not getting enough for Michael Raffl and Eric Gustafsson. Look, I get it. They were expendable pieces. It's not enough. A 7th-round pick and a 5th-round pick is not enough for guys that have played key roles on that team for the past couple of years now. Gustafsson more so just this year. But even still, I don't like the moves that Philadelphia made. I'm scratching my head at those. In terms of, a deal that's leaving me scratching my head, though I really, really liked, for the most part, every trade that was made today, I'm still shaking my head at the Taylor Hall deal. Seriously, that's the best you could get? Like, I can't. That's the best you could have gotten for Taylor Hall. That's the best. Terrible. I also feel like Washington overpaid for Mantha, but I digress. That being said, what are your thoughts on the trade deadline? Make sure you share it down below. We're going to move on from the trade deadline for now because, that was a doozy to talk about. It's time to start talking about our favorite teams, maybe things that we liked from this past week, including trade deadline talk. So, as you guys well know, I'm a diehard Devils fan to my detriment. Tom is a diehard Rangers fan to his detriment. So it's time, as usual, to enter Tom's Ranger realm. Tom, what's going down in Ranger land?
Well, it's funny. We recorded Tuesday last week. It was a little bit of a change up of sorts. But it's funny because last Tuesday night, as soon as we got done, the Rangers maybe played another one of their best games of the season against the Penguins. Nice 8-3 win where it was nice to see everybody contributing. Fox, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kakko, Lafreniere, you name it, they contributed in that 8-3 win versus Pittsburgh. It was a great, great game. So you figured they would have ridden the momentum into Thursday night against Pittsburgh, and they came out flat. I don't know if it was just overconfidence or deciding to get COVID shots in the middle of 2 games when you have back-to-backs up next. So, real stinker against Pittsburgh. There really was nothing good in that game. And then Friday night, you figured they were going to come in and the Islanders were going to whack them. You have the Islanders, Paul Mary, Zajac, and they're sticking Georgiev in there who hadn't played in close to a month. They go out there and they play maybe an even better game than did versus Pens. A 4-1 win where they dominated out there. They dominated. Lafreniere got on the board. Strome had another strong game. Miller, Georgiev had a great game too. Just a great game all around. Now, last night, I liked what they did against the Islanders. Granted, they lost in overtime. Granted, Hedl was out there and made a mistake or two, and the Birds are still out on Philip Hedl, man. I didn't like when they picked him in the draft in 2017. I don't hate the kid. I think that there should be a little more to his game right now. And last night it showed that he's still learning, and, he better pick it up soon. But, I like that they fought back last night and were able to get the game to overtime. Granted, they lost, but still, it was nice to see the fight in them. It's nice to see, Kakko got on the board last night with an assist. Kravtsov got his first NHL point last night. Lafreniere had 2 goals in 3 games this past week. It's just nice to see these kids coming around. Fox, well, we've been riding the praise of Fox all season. Miller's been, really good lately too. And it's great. Are the playoffs going to happen this year? With all of these deals that went down today, it's looking more and more like probably not. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it. The other night before the game against Pittsburgh, I was driving home. I had to run a few errands, and I had the pregame on the radio. And, Dave Maloney said it best. He said, Pittsburgh is only getting older. Washington is only getting older. Boston is only getting older. The Islanders, while still they have a pretty young core, they're trading draft pick after draft pick after draft pick, which is significantly shortening their window, which in time, if all goes according to plan and all goes organically, that'll clear the path for the Rangers to start, mowing these teams down and being one of the class of the teams in whatever division they may be. And they said they're going to go back to the Metropolitan and the regular divisions next year. I'm inclined to believe that the same thing's going to happen. But you know what, guys, patience is a virtue. Dave Maloney said it best. There's been a couple times where I've had the unfortunate experience of watching the Rangers on other teams' broadcasts this year, and they're all saying they're like, Kakko, Luck, and they're like, this is going to be a team to be reckoned with in a few years. So, man, patience, guys, patience. With these deals, it may not happen this year. Somebody may drop. Somebody may fall from grace, and the Rangers may sneak in. And if they do, great. But if they don't, no problem. There's a lot to look forward to. And with this, this forward development of these guys, a lot to be proud of in Ranger land right now. A lot to be proud of. Not a lot to be hanging our heads about right now.
Yeah, definitely not. And piggyback on that one, there's going to come a time, over these next few years that your top 3 teams in that division is going to be the Rangers, the Devils, and the Flyers. And that's just exciting for tri-state hockey in general.
Hey, don't forget about Carolina either.
Well, yeah, no, I didn't want to. I'm just saying for tri-state hockey's sake. Yeah. Carolina's going to hang around for a long time to come. That's true. But it's time to enter my Devil's Den, as per usual. So, look, at least this team has fight in them. Shout out to Miles Wood for some strong playing as of late, as well as PK Subban for being an absolute warrior for getting stitched up between shifts. My God, he got sliced like above the knee yesterday during the game, sliced by a skate, hops off for his shift, goes to the back, gets stitched up, takes pictures, and then doesn't miss a shift. Still played over 20 minutes yesterday. Absolute warrior. Also, shout out to both Miles Wood and PK Subban, as they are now your newest assistant captains of the New Jersey Devils. Congratulations to both of them. Both very well earned. But it was a rough week for the Devils in general, and just a rough week for Devils fans in general. Where fans were very saddened to see Travis Zajac and Kyle Palmieri in new uniforms this past Wednesday. And I know it hurts now. I love both of these players, and I wanted them to retire as Devils. But you look at what you got. You got a first-round pick for 2 guys that combined for 15 goals this year before the trade. Yet other teams failed to get a first-round pick for players that are seen as better than both of them. Eric Stahl, Taylor Hall ring the mind on both of those accounts. It was the right deal to make for the future. Same with the Dimitri Kulikov deal. It was the right deal to make. This also gives the Devils not only cap flexibility, but it gives them expansion draft flexibility, which is huge. It means that the Devils can now protect both Pavel Zacha and Miles Wood, where they would have had to choose between the two before the trade deadline. These are all calculated moves for the future. And Tom Fitzgerald knows what he's doing. I know that there are those fans out there that say, I don't understand this GM. He's trying to bury the Devils. That's not the case. He just knows that the Devils window is not now. He said it over the summer. The Devils window to win is going to be when Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes hit their prime and hit their stride. That's when it's going to be time to really make those moves. And yeah, that's not this year, but that's okay. Devils fans, you need to be patient. You need to be painfully patient. And I say painfully patient because, yeah, we've seen some painful years, and this is another painful year. But you grin and bear it because you know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Let's look ahead at what's to come. Beyond just, future assets. You've got Alexander Holtz, Dawson Mercer, Nolan Foote, all three guys knocking on the door at this point. You've got first-round picks that can become, franchise mainstays. You never know until the moves are actually made. So you can't call the Palmieri and Zajac deal bad just yet until you know what the Devils eventually do with those picks. Something that I'm going to allude to when we talk about our question of the week in a little bit. So for now, I'm just looking forward to this little mini series with the New York Rangers. It's time to get back to work, Devils fans. Root against the Rangers. Rangers suck. All right. Anyway, moving on. Let's go into some quick general NHL US hockey weekly thoughts in general. So, Tom, I know you wanted to highlight the NCAA hockey tournament. Who was our winner from the tournament?
Want to congratulate UMass Amherst on winning this. Unfortunately, the game was a little bit of a dud. If you're a UMass fan, I'm sure you were happy. And I'm sure anytime your team's in a big game where a championship's on the line, you want to blow another team out. But man, they blew St. Cloud State out. I had the game on. I was excited for it, but man, it was a stinker of a game. It was a blowout. Congrats to those guys anyway. First national championship for that school. So, and maybe I think it's maybe the first one in Massachusetts that's like not in the Boston area. I got to check that. But congrats to them. Matthew Robertson, it wasn't Matthew Robertson. I'm forgetting the name. This is gonna kill me. It wasn't Matthew Robertson. The Rangers had a prospect on there, and I had his name, and I had it on the tip of my tongue, and I just forgot it. It's killing me. But oh man, I gotta look it up. I want to say Robert. Oh no, Zach Jones. Zach Jones. What am I thinking? Zach Jones, member of the national championship of the UMass Amherst Bulldogs, is now coming to. The Minutemen is now also coming to the Rangers after winning the national championship. Just signed his ELC today. He's going to burn his first year off the ELC, and he's coming to the big team. So congratulations to them. And good NCAA season, good NCAA tournament. Sorry for the dead air, guys. I literally got two names confused, and I get so upset with myself when I do that.
Hey, it happens. It happens. But for my quick little highlight, congratulations to goaltender Jack Campbell of the Toronto Maple Leafs for winning his 11th straight game to start a season. That is an NHL record, not a franchise record. That is an NHL record. So big congratulations to Jack Campbell. He has been absolutely lights out in between the pipes for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's actually going to create a big question going forward once Freddie Anderson is healthy, is who's your true starting goaltender? And I think that's going to be a good problem to figure out. But for now, Jack Campbell, congratulations, and thanks for being on my fantasy team, dude. You've really helped me out. But anyway, it's time to get into our final segment. It's time to get into our question of the week, which our question for this week is, what is the worst trade your favorite franchise has ever made? So it's a little bit thought-provoking with this one. So I'm going to start first because I'm a Devils fan. And Lou Lamoriello made some pretty questionable trades and signings in the mid-2000s. And none was more dumb than the Vladimir Malikov trade. Now, when I was thinking back in my memory bank, I remember from when I was younger hating a Vladimir Malikov trade. And I was thinking it was when we acquired Vladimir Malikov the second time. But then I remembered, oh, wait, we signed him the second time. So I'm not talking about the first Vladimir Malikov trade that sent Sheldon Surrey to the Montreal Canadiens. No. I actually really like that deal because it was the reason why the Devils won the 2000 Stanley Cup. No, the Vladimir Malikov trade I'm talking about occurred in 2006. And in this case, it was when the Devils traded Vladimir Malikov and a first-round pick in 2007 to the San Jose Sharks for Alexander Korolyuk and Jim Fahey. It was a terrible trade. Alexander Korolyuk never played a minute of ice time for the New Jersey Devils. Gets to the summertime, he requests to be dealt back to the San Jose Sharks, and he never reported to the Sharks after he was traded for a third-round pick, which voided that deal, so the Devils did not end up getting a third-round pick back for Korolyuk. As for Jim Fahey, he was serviceable, but a seventh defenseman at best. You don't trade a first-round pick for that. So what happened with Malikov? Well, nothing, actually. He never dressed for the San Jose Sharks and retired at season's end. But then what about the first-round pick? Well, it's time to get ready for pain. With that pick, San Jose never used it, actually. It was dealt to the St. Louis Blues, but what the Blues drafted hurts even more. With that pick, the St. Louis Blues drafted David Perron. Ouch. So the Devils in consecutive years lose first-round picks to the Blues, where they would select in 2006 Patrick Berglund and David Perron in 2007. Absolute pain. Tom, what's your least favorite trade?
Well, a lot of Ranger fans on here, the first thing they're going to say is, oh, he's going to talk about Rattel and Park for Esposito and Vadnais. No, I'm not going to do that.
Damn, I really wanted you to.
Yeah, that one's been talked about too many freaking times. He's going to talk about Ken Hodge for Rick Middleton. Nah, that one's been talked about too many times.
Can I interrupt real quick? A lot of Devil fans would be quick to say, like, oh, it's got to be, Ilya Kovalchuk. To those fans, you're dumb. Ilya Kovalchuk actually brought you to a Stanley Cup in 2012 with a broken freaking back. So don't talk bad about Ilya Kovalchuk with that trade, especially since he gave away spare parts in that deal. Anyway, go on. Least favorite trade.
So then I brought one up last week concerning one that Mark Messier forced. It was the Matthias Nordstrom and Ian LaPerriere to LA for Yari Curry and Marty McSorley. But I talked about that last week, so I don't want to repeat myself. I do enough of that. So I didn't want to do that. And then I listened to an interview with Tony Amonte last week on the Cam Strick podcast. And I said, let me bring the Amonte one up, but then you're going to have all the 94 blowhards saying, but Matteau. So no, I'm not going to talk about that one either. I'm gonna reach not way back here. This is actually probably more recent than any of those trades. This one happened in 1999 at the draft. Neil Smith in the 90s was very, very hard up to tear the Rangers apart and rebuild them, which in a way he was right to do. The biggest problem in the 90s was, and basically every draft from the about 1992 to around 2003 is that none of those drafts were any freaking good. And I remember as a kid being 11 years old in 1999, the Hockey News piping up that 99 draft. Pavel Brendel. And you guys may think, oh, he's going to talk about Brendel. No, I'm not going to talk about that one either. I'm going to talk about another trade that he made in that draft. And this trade was the deal he made with Calgary. He traded Mark Savard to Calgary along with the Rangers' first-round pick in 1999 for the playing rights to Jan Hlavich, Calgary's first-round pick, and a third-round pick, which later actually went back to Calgary. Now, my problem with this is a few things. A, Jan Hlavich, was he bad? No, he formed that Czech Mafia line, which really was kind of like the only positive in that era when you had Nedved, Dvorak, and Hlavich, playing together. And I remember being at Hat Night in 2000 when Jan Hlavich scored a hat trick against the Bruins. And the only time I ever saw Ray Bourque play, actually, and the ice being littered with hats. But, man, Mark Savard. Basically, it was Mark Savard for Jamie Lundmark. Lundmark, who the organization basically praised that him and Brendel were the future 1-2 punch. Lundmark in the middle, Brendel on the right. Jamie Lundmark went nowhere in hockey. He went nowhere. Every year he'd show up to camp. Every year they'd say, yeah, he's ready this year. He's ready this year. And every year, nah, he's going back to junior. Nah, he's going to Hartford. Nah, we're getting, sorry, next year. Be ready for next year. They gave up Marc Savard. Marc Savard, who at first on the Rangers was a little quiet, but I remember in 1999 when Wayne Gretzky went down with that back injury, and it basically, everybody jumped up a spot on the depth chart. So Nedved took over line one, Savard took over line two. And Savard was something else on line two. He was really showing the player that he could have become. I'll never understood why they gave up on him. And, initially when he went to Calgary, he was sort of the same player, a 40-point guy. But as time went on, he became a point-per-game player to the point where we got to the mid-2000s, and he literally was putting up, he put up 97 points in Atlanta one year, was moved to the Boston one year, and put up 96 points. I mean, could you imagine him on the Rangers on those mid-2000 teams with Jágr and Shanahan? Obviously, Jágr and Nylander played together, but could you imagine Savard and Shanahan playing together? They would have never had to spend the money on Gomez and Drury. He would have been a reliable second-line center or a first-line center for that matter. Can you imagine him and Gaborik together? That was a trade that really, really bothered me. I really do think Marc Savard could have been a key centerpiece with the Rangers, and I really do think when the league opened up after the lost season, I think Marc Savard would have been a superstar. That just was a really, really bad trade, and one that still hurts me to this day because there was a lot that Marc Savard had that they just didn't see.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so unfortunate that Marc Savard's career was cut short. But yeah, I can only imagine what Marc Savard could have given to that mid-2000s Rangers lineup. It could have been like that true difference maker, to be honest. And you're right. Jamie Lundmark went nowhere. I remember always trading for him in NHL 2004 just because he had potential. And it's ironic because he never went anywhere in even the games. So I couldn't even make him do well on rookie mode. But
yeah, well,
it was what it was.
The only guy you needed to trade for in that game was Peter Forsberg. He was the best player in that game by far.
I always traded for Ilya Kovalchuk because he always became a 99. I always dealt Jamie Langenbrunner and a second-round pick for Ilya Kovalchuk. I never understood why Atlanta always took that, and it makes even more sense that they accepted less later on. But anyway, what's your least favorite teams? What is your least favorite trade that your favorite team has ever made? Comment down below. And as well as we want to hear from your reactions of the trade deadline as well. Make sure you comment down below, join the conversation, and while you're down there, drop a like and to hit the subscribe button while you're down there as well, in case you're not subscribed already. But that's going to just about do it for us here at I-80 Sports. As always, where can you find us? Well, you found us here on YouTube, so good for you. But you can also find us at i80sports.com, where there's MLS coverage, NFL, college football, and basketball coverage as well. We also got a store there. Maybe you want a couple hats. Maybe you want a beanie. Maybe you want a t-shirt as low as $8. Check out i80sports.com and get all of your I-80 Sports needs. And make sure you hit us up on Twitter as well at i80_sportsNHL. The road to 1,000 is still going on. Hop on the train now to be a part of that inaugural 1,000 members of the I-80 Sports NHL faithful out there. But that's going to do it for us. I'm Brian. He's Tom. As always, this has been Trade Deadline Talk at I-80 Sports NHL.